welcome to the Jess Turner Talk Show, and I am your co-host Laraine, and today we are continuing our series on mental illness, mental disorders, and our focus today is understanding ADHD in our children. Now what we're gonna learn today in this segment is signs of ADHD, finding out if your child has ADHD, how professionals can help, and how you can help your child. And so let's just jump right into it, okay? ADHD is a common condition in both kids and adults, but kids who have it are often misunderstood. You may not yet know if your child has ADHD, also called ADD, but if your child has trouble with focus or is hyperactive, impulsive, there are many ways to help them at school and at home. One of the myths surrounding ADHD is that it's not a real thing, but I'm here to tell you today it is very real. Some people even think that kids are just being lazy or just lack willpower. But ADHD is a biological condition caused by differences in certain areas of the brain, and it runs in the family. So, in this overview today, again, we're going to talk about the signs, and that is the first thing we're going to talk about first. Everyone shows signs of ADHD at one time or another, but kids with ADHD struggle a lot more with them than other kids their age. The key symptom is trouble with focus. Now, if you're noticing that your child doesn't stay focused on one task at hand, such as doing their homework, they start doing their homework, but then they jump up and they go and do something else, knowing that they need to finish their homework. Now, again, we can't just take this one incident and say, okay, my child has ADHD. No, because your child could just be rebelling. I don't want to do my homework right now, and I want to play my video games. But you're noticing that it happens a lot, not just with homework, but it happens with doing chores around the house, brushing their teeth, just something, a lot of things surrounding staying focused and self-control. If your child is struggling with self-control, like they cannot control their outbursts, they can't control how active they are. They just jumping all over the place. Again, we can't just say just because my child is jumping on the bed and jumping from couch to couch that they're ADHD. No, it could look at their diet. It could be too much sugar, too much unhealthy carbs in their diet, and their little body is trying to get rid of all of that buildup of sugar in their system, so they're lashing out. So we can't just say that a person that is jumping up and down is ADHD. There's a lot that goes into the diagnosis. So ADHD is a problem with a group of skills called executive function, and these skills include organization and managing emotions, which are usually a struggle for kids with ADHD. ADHD doesn't look the same in all kids, and signs look different at different ages. Some may even disappear as your child gets older, even though ADHD doesn't go away. There's one confusing sign of ADHD. Kids who have trouble focusing most of the time can often hyperfocus or focus very well on things they find really interesting, such as I'll take my son, for example. When he's into his video games, he's really into those video games. But give him a book on, let's say, science, and he doesn't really focus on that because it's not very interesting to him. So we gotta, again, just taking these signs that I'm giving you today doesn't necessarily mean that your child is ADHD, but we want to give you the signs so that you can start keeping a journal of what you're seeing on a daily basis. Okay, so hyperfocus or focus very well on things they find really interesting. For example, they might focus for hours on playing a sport, but for only a few minutes on doing homework. Again, we've already covered that. And moving on, here are some signs of ADHD you might see in different grades. Like preschool to grade 12, ignores directions or doesn't follow them. Grabs things without permission, needs to be frequently reminded to stop and listen. Gets up, fidgets, or talks when expected to be quiet. That's preschool through grade 2. Grades 3 through 7, seems daydreaming and distracted and easily loses focus. Often loses or forgets things. Is often restless. Doesn't think about consequences before doing things. That's again grades 3 through 7. In teens, has trouble getting organized and prioritizing things, acts impulsively or does risky things, fidgets and talks too much, has trouble meeting deadlines and finishing tasks. Finding out your child has ADHD is important for their success rate in school and in their community. There aren't any medical tests for ADHD, so evaluators use other methods to diagnose children. They ask parents to fill out detailed questionnaires about their child's behavior. Teachers may also get a questionnaire. Evaluators also interview the children and their parents or caregivers. They ask for a detailed history of the child's health. They also ask about how the child functions at school, at home, and within their community. There are different types of professionals who can diagnose ADHD. In kids, they mostly work outside of the schools, and many can look for other conditions that kids with ADHD often have. Two of the most common are anxiety and learning differences. Kids can also get a free evaluation at school. This type of evaluation won't lead to a diagnosis of ADHD, but it can pick up on some of the challenges that your child with ADHD may have. Now, how can professionals help with your child's ADHD? There are a few treatment options for ADHD. Different professionals help with different ones. Healthcare providers can prescribe and monitor medications for ADHD. They also fine-tune or switch medications until they find the right prescription for your child. But experts agree that medication is the most effective treatment for most kids with ADHD. Mental health professionals can also help your child and the family understand and cope with ADHD. Some may do behavioral therapy. This is a reward system to help turn negative behaviors and habits into positive ones, such as if your child is diagnosed with ADHD, that you can have make a chart and say Monday is your day to take out the trash, and the trash needs to be taken out before 7 o'clock that night. And so the child knows that if they take the trash out before 7 o'clock at night, they're focused on, I'm going to get a treat. And that keeps them focused on the task at hand. Or if you finish your homework before dinner time, you're going to get a treat. That helps the child stay focused on the task at hand, and they look forward to getting a treat. Okay. I lost my place. So school psychologists can help create plans to give kids with ADHD extra support at school. Again, in order for your child to be successful, you need to work with not only the ones in the family to help the child, but also the community, the school, professionals. Everyone has a hand in helping this child to succeed at whatever they put their mind to do. So school psychologists, counselors can help create plans to give kids with ADHD extra support at school. For example, a child might get accommodations to make it easier to focus in class, such as they may need a one-on-one tutor sitting with them in the classroom, or they may be allowed to go to a study hall where there are others there to help them to stay on task with the assignment at hand. So how can you help your child with ADHD? Kids can learn to manage ADHD symptoms and thrive. Supporting your child starts with understanding about this mental illness. And again, it is not something that we can just throw underneath the rug and say it's not happening. It is happening. If you see multiple signs and the school is calling you, telling you that your child doesn't seem to be focusing on and doesn't listen in class, you need to get to the root of why is this happening with my child. So supporting your child and understanding what ADHD is and what it isn't. You can also discover simple ways to improve your child's focus, find a fidget that fits your child's needs, get tips for helping your child follow directions, help your child manage screen time and cell phone use. On the internet, there's a vast amount of information out there for ADHD. And so it's important as a parent, as a caregiver, as a friend, as someone that's involved in a child's life, it's important that we all become educated and don't label the child as bad. that is one word that I do not like to hear people use on a child that may seem to be unruly. Manners, respect starts at home, and your child mimics what they hear, what they see. And if you are in your home using foul language and you're all over the place, your child is going to pick up on those behaviors. And so when the school calls and says your child is using foul language and mouthing off at the teachers, you got to look at yourself in the mirror first and see, is this a learned behavior? It may not even be ADHD. It could just be a learned behavior, because this is what they see. Children are very impressionable. They look up to their parents. They even may look up to their older brother or sister, and whatever they're doing, they want to be just like that. So you have to understand what ADHD is and what ADHD isn't. And a child should not be told that they are bad. A child should never be put down in the home. Okay, so I'm leaving a little bit from ADHD and just going to just basic parenting. We can make or break our children. If we're constantly putting our children down, they're going to feel worthless. They're going to feel like that, why am I here? Because if you telling me that I'll amount to nothing, that, I wish you weren't here, and especially parents that are divorced and the child is going back and forth, with daddy, with mom, and every time you go to dad, every time you go to mom, it's something negative being said about the other parent. That shouldn't be done. And you shouldn't say that you're just like your dad, and the child know that you and dad are not on terms, and you're telling them you're just like your dad. You're going to amount to nothing. And we should get your act together, and then yelling and screaming. That child is growing up in a very dysfunctional environment. And then when the school calls us, we want to, chastise our child to the extreme because we feel that they should be better. But they're a little you. They're expressing what they're getting in at home, at school, and they feel it's normal. This is, well, mom do it, dad do it, and nobody says anything to them. So when I do it, why am I getting in trouble? They're not understanding, and we have to really, as parents, we have to nurture our children to the point where we need to ensure that they have every available tool for success, because one day they're not going to be children. They're going to be adults, and whatever they have learned from you and from society is going to be with them. And you don't want your child to grow up thinking that they're worthless or that they're nothing, because that's how they're going to function in life. And they'll never have a high self-esteem of themselves. So I had to throw that in because I hear it a lot, especially when children have a underlying mental disorder, and the parents don't understand what it is, so they label the child as being bad. And I tell people, no child is bad. They're mischief, they're doing mischievous things, but they're not bad. We have to understand why are they doing the things that they're doing, and get to the root cause of it, and work on correcting that root cause and switching over to something positive. Because if your child has ADHD and all they're being told is that you're nothing and you're bad, you're lazy, you need to stop acting, act your age and all, y'all know what I'm talking about. We got to be better. We got to be better as parents. We do. And teachers, principals, anyone that come in contact with children, you need to also. I was watching one of the Darman films, and this one teacher just kept putting down this, told this young man that he was not going to amount to anything, and it was sad. But that young man had a good support system at home, and he ended up becoming very successful. And his teacher came to one of his book signings. And you can only imagine, and his teacher was now a janitor. But he was he really didn't push this young man to full potential, but instead he made him feel like he would never amount to anything as far as being a journalist, as being an author. But this young man, again, he had a good support system at home, and he overcame the obstacles of what his teacher drowned into him, that you are not going to be anything. Again, we got to be better as parents. We got to be better as teachers, better as principals. Don't just label a child bad. Get to the root cause of why they're acting out. And it could be anything. And dealing with mental illness, if a person is constantly being put down and they don't know why they're feeling the way that they're feeling, they may opt out and contemplate suicide, because mental illness can lead to suicide. And it would be very devastating for you to have had a hand in causing someone to think about taking their life. Don't do it. Please don't do it. So let's get back to ADHD. And let's see here, my computer froze. I can say you're talking too much. Okay, so I want to read you something. It says in the life of a child with ADHD, and I thought this was just so. When I read it, I was like, oh wow, this is really good. So we're going to explore a day in the life of a child with ADHD, and then I'm going to close with this as soon as it loads. Okay, so the first thing, the child's name is Kayla, and she's a 7th grader with ADHD. She's a smart kid, but it's hard for her to stay focused. She has hyperactivity and self-control issues. Those are her major challenges. So we're going to, her day starts at 7:09 a.m. and it says Kayla has a really tough time waking up. ADHD makes it hard for her to fall asleep, and it affects the quality of her sleep too. She's so tired, she doesn't notice her alarm blaring. When she finally gets up, she isn't fully awake. She's in a twilight state that can last for hours. Getting ready for school is a huge struggle for her and her family. So that's 7:09 a.m. Again, she didn't hear the alarm, and then when she was awakened, she was in a twilight state, just staring into space. So she has sleep problems and she has a hard time waking up. 9:30 a.m. She's in science lab. Kayla is interested in the experiments, but she can never remember what she's supposed to do. She already have asked a classmate what the second step was, but she doesn't want to be annoying and ask about the third step too. So Kayla is also distracted by the way the safety goggles look and feel. So instead of focusing on her science project, she is constantly messing with her goggles and how they're feeling. They may be feeling uncomfortable to her, or she's fascinated with them. I don't know what the issue was, but she focused on the safety goggles, the look and feel of them, and not her assignment. So she has a problem focusing and completing tasks. At 10:45 a.m., the first question on the math test was easy, but the second one was hard. Now her mind is racing. What if I fail? Now she lost focus of the test, and she's already thinking about the outcome. What if I fail? What will I tell mom and dad? What will the teacher say? Her brain feels like it's popping popcorn. Then her mind kind of goes blank as she stares out the window. And I know as a trainer, I used to train adults, and sometimes I'd be talking and I'll turn, looking at the whiteboard, and I'll turn back to see who's focused on the whiteboard, and I'll see some of my students, they're looking in the other classroom, because we had window dividers, looking in other classrooms, and they're just staring. And then I'll call them out, and I'll say, and so what would you do in a situation? I would bring them back, but they zone me out. And so that happens. even with our children. 12:30 p.m. Kayla wants to fit in, but she keeps breaking social rules. Her friends complains, Kayla, stop interrupting. Stop being so nosy. Stop telling the same story again. Her mood swings from very happy to deeply worried that she'll become a social outcast. She also tends to snack a lot when she's upset, even past the point where she's already full, but she'll keep eating. 1:45 p.m. Last week, Kayla was bursting with ideas about the group project, but she forgot to finish the part where she was supposed to do it. She tries to listen to the teacher, but she keeps spacing out. She taps her pen and shakes her legs to help her stay focused, but these movements often annoy the people around her. So her challenge is staying on task. 4:30 p.m. flag football. Kayla has fun, even though she's always late. She knows all the plays really well, and she knows that exercise will help her focus on her homework later. It's also nice being around kids who don't go to her school. This is the one place where she doesn't feel like a failure. So here, she's not around people that is telling her, stop doing this, and why are you doing that? She's around people that don't know her, and she feels more comfortable. 6 p.m. after flag football, one of Kayla's teammates asked to walk home with her. She's thrilled because he's a cool kid who also makes her laugh. While they're waiting at an intersection, he surprises her by spray painting a wall. Then he hands her the can so she can add to the design. She doesn't stop to think about whether they might get in trouble. So risky behavior, impulsiveness. 10:15 p.m. Kayla's big essay is due tomorrow. She always has trouble getting started, but she also thinks she works better under pressure. She'll stay up extra late to finish and will be a total zombie tomorrow. But right now, her deadline is helping her focus like a laser beam. She doesn't even hear her mom yelling to get her attention. So starting task, hyper focus. That's the life of Kayla. And if you can see, it's not a happy one. She has her moments of being happy, but most of the time she just doesn't focus. And when she do focus, she hyper focuses. ADHD affects children differently. Maybe you know someone that's like Kayla, or maybe you don't. Maybe some of the things that Kayla experienced, your child has experienced. But if you think that your child has ADHD, please help them and let them know that they are not alone, that there are others, there's even adults that have ADHD, and it can be controlled, and they can overcome, and they can lead productive lives. I'm going to leave you with that, and I hope that something I said today has enlightened you. If you have any questions, when you have our telephone number at the end, please give us a call. And as my father would always say, don't ponder in your heart. Let's talk about it on the next Jess Turner Talk Show. And I've been your co-host, Laraine, and our topic again today was understanding ADHD in our children. You have a good day. God bless.